Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 14th of June, comes to you from Prague. I'm here speaking at an energy conference today. So we start by looking at the dollar index just falling back through the cloud again. So this weakness coming back again. So we're just seeing this short-term weakness. The dollar just going through these waves. In fact, it really becomes apparent when we look at the 60-minute chart. It looks very noisy, but we had this big move down in May, and we're just teetering along the bottom. Is that the beginning of another big move down? We'll have to wait and see, but this is quite a sell-off. But on the long-term chart, of course, we still are just holding the bullish position, although the price is just coming through now. So it'll be interesting to see whether this is the beginning of a long-term transition. And again, if we look at this chart, we can see just on the weekly chart that we had this big move in 2014, and really it's been a long consolidation since then. So it's still too early to say that this is some kind of top and we're going to fall away. But at the same time, we can't really say that it's a continuation either. So the dollar is just in this big trading range at the moment. And of course, the short-term downside targets are as much as 3-4% away. So there is still scope for the dollar to fall quite a bit in the short to medium term, but the long-term trend may well kick in still. Looking at the euro, much the same picture in reverse, the big move down, sideways range, and in fact in my talk today I'm covering the euro, and when you look at this you do realize over the long term there's just a very big range, about 105 to 115, that's the big range. Can we break this 2016 high? Now we've got targets to 116, we've still got a lot of downside targets hanging over us, and it would only really be when we start to negate these targets with a move above 116 that we could say for sure that the euro was looking better long term. And of course we still have long term resistance to fight as well. So we do have upside targets of 2 and 5%. And the euro is looking stronger short term, just coming back up through the cloud, not quite through yet. Looking at the Japanese yen, we see here that the yen is medium term, so this is dollar falling, long-term strength, medium-term strength, just short-term, the dollar is recovering against the yen, so we are seeing a little bit of recovery there. And sterling, of course, big falls on Friday with the UK election result, just coming off the floor at the moment, so a bit of a recovery. So this is really quite key now. We're setting a level of about 126, 126.25. If we fall through that level, then we, of course, push lower. But we have got an activated downside target to 123, so that's about 4% away. And of course, we've still got a lot of downside targets. So sterling, although we've got seeing a little bit of a recovery this morning, it's still looking pretty bearish. Against the euro, still pretty bearish. And against the Swiss franc, we're also looking quite bearish, although we're just seeing a little bit of recovery there as well today, but it's still looking pretty bearish on all three time frames. Against the Australian dollar, this must be Australian dollar strength because we're seeing sterling up against most currencies this morning. So Australian dollars even stronger. Sterling looking bearish here, just finding support on the cloud, but falling this morning again and activating downside targets as well. Stock markets last night moved quite well in the US. We saw quite a strong day, not taking to new highs on the S&P 500, but still bullish above the cloud on all three time frames. The Nasdaq starting to recover after its big sell-off on Friday, and the Dow making a new all-time high. We're seeing that showing through on the weekly cloud, showing through very clearly, and on the daily and the 60-minute chart. So all upside targets. US stock markets generally looking pretty positive, and the Russell 2000, the broadest index of 2,000 US shares, also looking pretty strong as well. S&P future also above the cloud, and the Nasdaq E-mini just very, very slightly up 0.01%, but so no real clear direction on which way the market will open today. FTSE back above the 7,500 level, just bearish short term still, but the medium and long term charts look fine, and the FTSE 250 powering ahead this morning, so that's looking quite strong again as well. The DAX is bullish on all three time frames, bouncing quite nicely on the short-term time frame, and we are just seeing multiple upside targets for the DAX, 5%, and lots of targets between 1 and 2%. So multiple targets gives us some conviction that we will see the DAX go higher in the coming days. And the Nikkei just falling away on the short-term chart. Just looking a little bit bearish there, but the medium and long term still bullish. The Hang Seng looking bullish. Shanghai also just looking quite good on the short term, just hitting some medium term resistance on the price on the cloud. And the Indian market looking pretty strong still, although sideways on the short term chart. Australian market powering ahead on the short term, just really looking like it's finding support on the daily cloud, and so that's looking much better. But we've got an absence of short-term targets just off this recent price action. Looking at commodities, Brent crude down again this morning. We shouldn't be that surprised. It's in a downtrend. So we're sitting here at 48.30 this morning, 48.37. So looking to go lower still. We've got downside targets to 46.77, 46.72. So that's another 3% downside in the crude oil price. And WTI also falling lower, and that's quite key as well. US nat gas is now below the $3 mark, and we've got downside targets here of 3%, so 287, 288. So it looks like we're going lower on US nat gas. Just taking a look at some of the commodities, cocoa falling nearly 2% this morning, still holding its bullish trend on the short term. Sugar down very significantly, making new lows, and that's bearish on all three time frames, so that's quite significant. Taking a look at gold, gold is recovering this morning, not through the cloud on the short term chart, but we are just seeing the price up. Still the medium and long term charts looking much better, so we shouldn't be surprised to see gold make a recovery, and silver much the same picture, of course. Taking a look at US Treasury yields, we're sitting at 2.2%, awaiting a Fed decision on interest rates, so that will be quite interesting to see in the market, and expect there's a little bit of volatility on the 10-year today. Apple still hasn't really fully recovered Friday's rout, but this is just a fallback to support on the medium-term chart. Google still much the same picture as Apple there. Short-term we're below the cloud, but medium and long-term charts bullish. Same with Amazon and Facebook. So quite interesting there, back above 150, and still all these multiple upside targets, looking like a buying opportunity because we're seeing lots of upside thrust targets off that. And Microsoft also looking stronger, and didn't really fall through the cloud of the lagging line in the short-term chart, so that's looking pretty good too. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.